China, a brilliant civilization that once led humanity for thousands of years, possesses a culture so unique it's almost unbelievable, along with astonishing and mysterious architectural wonders. With its long history, vast population, ethnic diversity, and distinctive traditions, China stands as a remarkable example of Eastern civilization. Today, we journey to this vast land of 1 billion people to uncover the mysteries hidden behind its dazzling legacy. Is what we've always been told about China really the truth? Welcome to another episode of Mystery World Explorer, titled Exploring China, the Eastern Civilization. If I had to choose the most lively and extravagant wedding in the world, I would definitely choose the traditional weddings of ancient China. As you can see, everything for a grand celebration is here. From the loud drums and trumpets, to the glowing red lanterns, to the firecrackers bursting in the air. And of course, no one could ignore the wedding feast, filled with fine wine and lavish dishes. But not every wedding was truly a day of joy. Here we see a bride, beautiful as ever, with her traditional red veil. But where is the groom? We will never meet him because he is already dead. You heard that right. This is a ghost marriage, a wedding for the dead. So, what exactly is a ghost marriage? Where did this practice come from? And just how terrifying was it in reality? To understand ghost marriages, we must go back to the era of the Three Kingdoms and meet this man Sima Yelong with another figure. This young boy named Cao Chong, the son of Cao Cao. Among Cao Cao's children, Cao Chong was considered the most gifted, brilliant, intelligent, and destined to inherit the Cao family legacy. But tragically, Cao Chong died at the age of only 13. Naturally, at that time, he had no wife. Cao Cao was heartbroken and sought a way to find a bride for his son's spirit. He searched for families who had lost daughters, hoping their souls could be united in marriage with his late son. Not long after, Cao Cao heard that the Zhuan family had a young daughter who had passed away at a very early age. He approached them with a proposal to betroth their deceased daughter to Cao Chong. The two families then chose an auspicious day and held a ghost wedding, burying the Zhuan family's daughter beside Cao Chong's tomb. From that moment, the practice of ghost marriages began to take shape and spread. Ghost marriages reached their peak during the Song dynasty, according to records in Toming Lu Dreampool essays. When unmarried young men or women died prematurely, their parents were required to arrange a spirit wedding for them. But why did people feel the need to hold such ceremonies? In ancient Chinese belief, if someone remained single during their lifetime, they would also be lonely in the afterlife, with no one to accompany them. To avoid this, families sometimes had to send another member of their household to join the deceased in the spirit world. If they didn't want to sacrifice someone alive, they had to find another departed soul as a companion for the one who had just passed away. For young men and women who already had a marriage arranged but died suddenly, their families were also obligated to carry out a ghost wedding. Otherwise, it was believed their restless spirits would bring misfortune and trouble to the household. Another, more practical reason had to do with inheritance. When the deceased was given a wife in name, the family could adopt a nephew from within the clan to become the legal heir of the dead, son ensuring property, succession, and responsibility for ancestral worship. And finally, there was the matter of feng shui. It was believed that solitary graves could harm the prosperity of future generations. A ghost marriage was thought to resolve this, preventing misfortune and securing good fortune for descendants. So how exactly did a ghost marriage take place? First, if the marriage was between two people who had both already died, it wasn't considered too frightening. It was simply a way of bringing together two lonely souls, arranging for them to become husband and wife in the afterlife. The process began when the parents of the deceased hired a spirit matchmaker to formally propose marriage. After that, fortune-telling was performed to determine whether the union was favorable. The term spirit matchmaker referred to individuals who connected families that had lost a son or daughter at a young age. If the fortune was deemed auspicious, the spirits of the couple would be symbolically dressed in wedding garments, and a full wedding ceremony would be held. They would then be buried together in the same tomb. The ghost wedding itself unfolded almost like a wedding among the living. The groom's family still needed to present gifts to the bride's family, and all the food and drink at the ceremony were real. The only difference was that clothing and jewelry were represented by paper offerings, burned so the bride could enjoy them in the afterlife. In the rituals, if both bride and groom were already dead, they were represented by paper effigies placed on the family altar. Normally, in a wedding, relatives would give gifts such as jewelry, furniture, appliances, or money. In a ghost wedding, however, these gifts were replaced with paper replicas, which were then burned along with the effigies to ensure the couple could live comfortably in the spirit world. During the ceremony, the effigies were treated and spoken to as if they were real people. Later, the two families would choose an auspicious date to exhume the bride's coffin so that she could be reburied beside the groom. If the groom was still alive and married a ghost bride, then instead of using two effigies, only a portrait of the bride would be placed. In this case, the groom would wear black gloves instead of the Ghost marriages were officially banned by the Chinese government in 1949. However, in a country as vast as China, such a ban largely remained at the level of propaganda and public campaigns. Why do I say that? Simply because this ancient practice still survives in some remote rural areas. Some wealthy families in the countryside still believe in it and are even willing to spend large sums of money to buy a ghost bride for their deceased son. And where there is money, there is crime. Ruthless criminals began murdering innocent women in order to sell their corpses as ghost brides. This gave rise to an underground trade in human remains, silently spreading across the country. Prices for a ghost bride varied, but the younger and more beautiful the deceased woman, the higher her value. Can you believe that a corpse of a recently deceased, attractive young bride could fetch over $30,000 on the black market? Body traffickers even went so far as to hire skilled doctors to perform cosmetic surgery on corpses, or to dye their hair, making the deceased appear younger and more appealing, so they could sell for an even higher price. But how did these corpse traffickers actually find bodies in the first place? Of course, they needed a source of supply. Corpses were divided into two categories: fresh bodies and dry bodies. Naturally, fresh bodies were far more valuable. To obtain them, traffickers would stake out hospitals. For example, if a young woman was critically ill and unlikely to survive, these men would gather from all over, waiting like vultures. They would fight among themselves, competing to buy her body. Often, the girl hadn't even taken her last breath before her corpse was already sold. Whoever managed to secure the deal could then simply wait for the inevitable news of her passing. Because the number of corpses was limited, countless eyes were fixed on hospitals. Inside, some staff would secretly leak information about patients on the verge of death to those in need. If a deal was made, these informants could earn between $1,000 and $2,000. Even if no sale went through, they would still be paid around $100 as long as they continued to provide leads in the future. And of course, the corpse trade also thrived in a bustling black market. Most of the supply came from grave robbing or outright theft of bodies. In short, ghost marriage is a horrifying and grotesque practice that must be eliminated. It cannot represent culture, nor any so-called tradition of Chinese civilization. China land, both mysterious and bizarre, holds not only such terrifying customs, but also incredible wonders and breathtaking beauty. So, don't forget to like and subscribe to Mystery World Explorer to join me in uncovering more secrets of China in the upcoming episodes.